Welcome to the Buck Stops here, the official podcast of NotInHallOfFame.com, and I'm your host, the Buck, Kirk Buchner, owner-operator of NotInHallOfFame.com, and welcome, it's a new decade, and who better to start off a new decade with than Vinny Lospinuso, one of our great contributors. We brought Vinny back because, well, the Pro Football Hall of Fame has announced their finalists, and when you want to talk about pro football in the Hall of Fame, you bring in a Football Hall of Fame expert. Without further ado, here's Vinny. Vinny, I can't think of anyone I'd rather have for the first podcast of the decade than the man who's been on the most last decade. Now, granted, it's only been for a year, but hey, it still counts. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine. I would say that I'm excited for playoffs to start tomorrow, just to see whether or not the Patriots could actually get dethroned by the Titans, which I'm not betting on because it is the Patriots, but at the same time, the Titans are looking very good this year. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, I also did more stuff. I also did more stuff at the radio station, like I usually do, mm-hmm. The Islanders and whatnot. But also besides that, I've been, of course, very patiently waiting for the news to drop to see who the 15 modern era finalists will be. Honestly, I've been so anticipating this that I was honestly looking forward to it more than anything else that day. And that doesn't happen. That is very, very rare.
Vinny, did you watch it? Did you watch it on the NFL.com NFL Network?
Yes, I watched it over my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it over my phone. I watched the entire presentation. I saw it just one by one. They announced them all. And I've got to say that, I had some guys that I thought would be on there, some guys that I was surprised were on there, but pleasantly surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, like I said, I'm down with all of these 15 now.
Yeah.
Are there some that I want over others? Yeah, there are some. But at the same time, I'm not going to go crazy angry over it, unlike some other people on social media.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, I was watching that at home also on the NFL Network. I enjoyed, because this is actually one of the first times I've actually watched that announcement live. Just for whatever reason, when it came out in previous times, I just didn't have the ability, or wasn't home, or was out and about doing something else. Because when you're married, you got to do that sort of shit. And so, I will say I did enjoy watching it. I'm not sure that I loved some of the presentation because. I don't know how you felt about that. I think they could have made it a little bit more fun because when they were doing it sort of like by position and then they'd sort of set everything up, and even with the clips they had, you kind of knew who they were going to say leading up to everything.
Yeah, they need to have an element of surprise. I feel like they also need to be a little bit more fun and it's fine having like a little smorgasbord of having the people there at the table discussing it, but you can also make it a little bit pizzazzier. I mean,
right.
On, make it.
And I guess, and I was going to say, like, Vinny, because I guess they feel they don't have to, because anyone who's going to watch is going to watch. But I thought that could have been a little bit more fun, and because they were just even every video package leading up to that before the bumper and for the commercial, you knew it was going to be. So even when they got to the defensive backs, they said, who's going to leap into it next, leap into the finalists? Gee, I wonder if they mean Leroy Butler.
And of course, yes, that is true.
Yeah.
Leroy Butler made it as a finalist after just being on the preliminary list like the last decade or so. Yeah. Leroy Butler made it as a finalist. In his last 2 years as a semifinal. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense. After all, if Atwater is going to break through this year, then you got to have the other first-team All-Decade member on here as well.
Yeah, so let's run down the 15 finalists, and we'll just sort of like gloss over the ones who we knew were pretty much going to go. So I'll just do this in alphabetical order. Steve Atwater, so I think no shock that he was going to get there, because anyone who was a finalist became a finalist again.
Not only that, he actually, if I recall, he was literally the last cut to 5. He was literally the last person they cut.
Mm-hmm. So I think he's got an excellent chance. No shock here, Tony Baselli.
No shock at all. He has a very good chance this year. If not this year, he'll definitely make it next year.
Also, then Isaac Bruce returning. So again, no
Not shocking.
surprise there. What is this number? How many in a row is this now for him? 3, 4.
This is third time as this is his sixth time on the ballot and his third time as a finalist. Sorry, I'm taking it back. This is sixth time eligible. This is fourth time as a finalist. My bad. Yeah, he's been a finalist the last 4 years, and hopefully, maybe for his sake, he'll finally break through. I mean, we really need a wide receiver,
definitely,
especially with Johnson coming up next year.
No, for sure. So Leroy Butler, we've already sort of talked about that. Alan Faneca is back, 5th year in a row. Highest ranked person on our current list. I think this could be. Yeah, I think so. And if he gets in, that'll be at the expense of the next person who's in alphabetical order, Steve Hutchinson, who will get in eventually. This is his 3rd straight year.
You could say that maybe Hutchinson and Faneca can get in together because, like the last 2 years, they put in Moss with Owens, 2 wide receivers, and also last year in particular, they put in Chance Bailey with Ty Law. So for all we know, they could put in Alan Faneca with Steve Hutchinson. I personally don't think that will be the case, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah, no, it could happen. Edrin James is back, 3rd straight year. Do you think he gets through?
He has a good chance. If not him, I feel like James and Bruce are a coin toss. Like there's a 50% chance that James makes it as a finalist, and there's a 50% chance that Bruce makes it as a finalist. But I don't see both of them making it as finalists. I mean, not finalists. I see either James or Bruce making it this year. I do not see both of them making it this year.
John Lynch, this is number 7 in a row, makes him the one with the most amount of finals appearances, but he's not. I don't think he's getting in.
He's not getting in before Palomalu or Atwater.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's 3rd in that position. Getting 3 of them in. I don't know.
It's even crazy that you have 4 safeties as finalists this year.
Well, I mean that was sort of the out of all the main positions, excluding special teams, that's always been the one that has gotten the least amount of love, and it's kind of nice that that's sort of changing. Sam Mills, here's a nice surprise, becoming a finalist. I think that's sort of a nice gesture, but he's not going any further.
No, he's not making it outside the top 15, and that's nothing against Torrey Holt. I personally didn't think he'd even make it as a finalist this year. I thought he just.
Oh, sorry, I glossed over Torrey Holt. I apologize.
No, I said Torrey Holt. I mean, I personally didn't think that Torrey Holt would make it as a finalist until
I didn't
Bruce
either.
made it. But yeah, I mean, Torrey Holt's a finalist. Good for him.
He should be.
The all-decade. What?
He absolutely should be. He should be there. So I'm almost hoping, and I hate it when I sort of have to think in a sort of irrational sort of way. But I believe that Bruce and Holt are deserving, but there's no way in hell they're going in at the same time.
No, there just isn't. And we look at Holt's resume. It's very deserving, of course. He's a 2-time All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler, led the league in receptions once, led the league in yards 2 times, and he's part of the All-Decade team. He is literally the only wide receiver on the 2000s All-Decade team that's not in. Owens is in, Moss is in, Harrison is in, Holt's not.
Yeah. So talking about Palomalu, I mean that's a lock. He's going in. They've already been working on that bus because it's going to take a lot more material with all that hair.
Of course, you can't forget his. That's literally what I always remember him. Like I said in a previous video, what I knew Palomalu mostly when I was growing up was that he was always in the Head and Shoulders commercials.
And he still has it.
Yeah, he's now in one with Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is saying great offense for your hair, and he says no, it's great defense against flakes.
Right. So Palomalu's a lock. No point going any further. Richard Seymour's back. I think we both predicted that. Does he get in this year? I think he could.
I don't see him making it this year. However, I do see him going from top 15 to top 10. I definitely see that happening, but I don't see him getting further than top 10.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something. I think he could be sort of like a dark horse to get in this year, but I could be wrong. Zach Thomas finally is a finalist after it took 7 years for him to be a finalist, but it took 6 years for him even to be a semifinalist, which is crazy in itself.
It took so long, and honestly, besides Seymour, I think Tom is. I really do think he's a dark horse, and not only that, I'm not sure how many of them are going to look into this sentimental value, but if they really, really, really want to go in the sentimental value with here, I personally don't think that's going to happen. I think that idea is kind of BS, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do want to do that, especially with the Super Bowl being in Miami, they could potentially put Zach Thomas in here.
They could. I don't know that that's necessarily something that's even going to enter their mind once, though. I really don't.
No, I don't think.
Now, this one I want your take on. I think you and I both thought that Reggie Wayne was going to be nominated in his first year of eligibility, which he should be. What I don't know is, and he's going to get in, is he going to get in this year? Or are we going to have two first ballot Hall of Famers?
No, I do not see that happening because
I agree.
Because Bruce has been a finalist for his fourth time, and you also have Holt, who's been as a semifinalist the last 5 years, who finally just made it in. Yeah, obviously Wayne. I'm very happy that he made it as a finalist, but Bruce has been in that hotel waiting for that knock the last several years, and I just do not see a way in which Wayne or Holt makes it before Bruce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And finally, my biggest surprise, I did not see them. I did not peg this one. Bryant Young.
I am very shocked by this one because he did the Everson Waltz. Now, what is that? The
Yes.
Everson Waltz is what happens when you have never made it as a semifinalist or even a finalist, and then just suddenly, out of nowhere, you jump up all the way from preliminary to semi, and then just in the exact same year, go all the way up to a finalist. That is so surprising, and I'm honestly very, very happy for him because, like I said, the three other defensive tackles in the 90s All-Decade team have all made it. Cortez Kennedy, Warren Sapp, and John Randall, and all that's missing is Bryant Young. I would say the reason why it's taken him so long is probably because, unlike those other three guys, he had a much quieter demeanor. But I'm so happy that he made it this year. But I would say I think this is where the road's going to end for him for this year.
For this year.
But I think this is so positive for him looking forward.
No, I really do, and I think those things are really important. He's still got how much eligibility does he have left? Quite a bit, so he's got time.
Oh, you got year of eligibility, so he has 12 more years before he dives into the senior pools. But I don't even. But now that this has happened, honestly, I thought it would take him at least another 5 years before he even cracks semifinals. But here he is. He's a finalist already in his 8th year. I do not see him dipping into the senior pool at all.
And
I just don't.
I agree with you, and they're not going to sort of regress and have him be a finalist this year, and then not at least make the semis next year. So he's definitely in top 25 next year. That's a given. So this is huge.
Next year's class is going to be a little bit more loaded. You have Pete Manning, you have Charles Woodson, you have Calvin Johnson, and you're going to have Jared Allen in their first year of eligibilities. And I think all of them are going to be semifinalists at least. Obviously, Manning and Woodson are going to be first ballots.
Right.
But even then, I still don't think that any of these guys that are finalists this year are going to not be finalists the year after. Because usually when that happens, it's usually very rare. Like, I know that Atwater was a finalist for 1 year, and then he was a semifinalist for several more years until he finally got back, and then he zipped all the way up to top 10.
Yeah.
And Edgerrin James, despite being top 15 1 year, gets back to the semifinalist, and then became a finalist again, and now he's at the top 10. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen, but it is a lot more rare. But I do not see that happening with Bryant Young, especially considering he's the last defensive tackle on the 90s All-Decade team that's not in. I mean, I would say that's a pretty big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think
another guy.
This bodes so well for him.
You're missing one other guy.
Who did I miss?
You forgot someone. You forgot to mention Sam Mills.
No, I did, and then I forgot Torrey Holt. I said Sam Mills, and then you responded with Torrey Holt.
Oh, why?
Either way, I missed Torrey Holt. That doesn't matter. But yeah, Sam Mills, and I was saying that I'm actually very happy for him. I don't think he's getting any further this year, but it does help him down the road, for sure.
Oh, especially for his family. And it's really crazy. How many players could say they were literally a franchise icon for two different teams?
Very few.
Not only that, the one that he became a franchise icon for truly was the team that he played less time with.
No, and yeah, that's very rare. I'm trying to think of. I'm sure there's quite a few, but I can't come up with any off the top of my head.
Yeah, I can't really think of one. I mean, the closest I can maybe think of is maybe Reggie White, but even then, he's known mostly as an Eagle.
See, I think of him more as a Packer.
It's both of them, like Eagle or Packer. It's sort of split.
Because if I remember correctly, he was a Defensive Player of the Year for both teams.
He was, I think.
Yeah, but I think
Kevin Green.
Yeah,
that's right. Kevin Green, Player of the Year with the Panthers.
Yeah, but Kevin Green wasn't necessarily. Although Kevin Green was the better player, I don't know that he was necessarily that iconic figure and leader that Sam Mills was.
No, I mean Kevin Green was the reason why it took him so long was because he was kind of one-dimensional. He was just known for getting the quarterback, but I'm happy to get it, but I don't think it should have been that long because when you're third all-time in sacks, it means you're third all-time in sacks.
Exactly. Sometimes you just got to put it in the most basic element. It's so true.
No, this bus has luxurious hair too.
He did at one point.
Yeah, on his bust it has hair. Now he doesn't have that hair anymore.
But it all changes. Brian Bosworth can't do the flat top anymore.
No, he can't. He's kind of growing it back though.
Yeah, but there's not as much on the top as there used to be.
No, there isn't.
But hey, that's aging. That happens to us all. Happening to me right now. So I think this is the more interesting thing here is what I was sort of really looking forward to discussing with you. One of which I know is probably going to dominate 50% of the remaining conversation is the 10 people who did not make the cut. None of these players, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, have ever been a finalist who were...
Nope, they never have been.
Okay.
They never have been finalists. In fact, for some of these, it's their first time ever as a semifinalist.
Right. So let's start with one. Carl Banks, because I'll, again, go alphabetical. We were both pleasantly surprised that he made the semifinals. And he was one of those guys that, okay, like I'm surprised you went there, but yeah, let's take a deeper look into him, and I'm glad they did. But I'm not shocked at all he didn't advance.
No, I'm not shocked at all. I thought that of all the linebackers you had, Banks did have the weakest case. I understand that, being in New York, you would think that, oh, Carl Banks, he's better than all of them because I bleed blue and my team sucks. But in reality, I mean, if you look at it objectively, yes, Carl Banks did make the all-decade team of the 1980s. But even then, I thought they would choose Chris Hinton or Wilbur Marshall for that final year of eligibility guy they would choose. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it would be Carl Banks, which made it more surprising, but I knew there would be no chance he would go and advance further. And yeah, and that's exactly what happened. Now, granted, I think being a semifinalist could really help him down the road. But even then, when you're looking at former linebackers, there's no way you could say that Carl Banks is going to be more deserving than the two guys that are blue ribbon finalists and Randy Gradish or Tommy Nobis, or even some guys that have been linebackers that were linebackers in the past that aren't on there, like Maxie Bond or Chuck Halley or a few other guys. So I think Banks' wait is going to take a while.
I don't think it happens at all. Ever.
If not ever.
No, I mean, and this is not a shot at Carl Banks. I loved watching him play. I think he's phenomenal, but there's just so many other people ahead of him on that ladder that it's going to make it really hard for him. And again, this is not me denigrating the ability of Carl Banks. He was great. It's just to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Vinny. I don't have to tell you how hard it is. I mean, it's going to, especially when we get to that, when the Blue Ribbon, the Centennial class announces that group, and we're going to have all these wonderful people who waited decades, who were better players than Banks.
Yeah, I mean, granted, hell, even on the Blue Ribbon Committee, some people were telling me that Jimbo Cover wasn't deserving. I said, how could you say that? He made it first team all decade, and is the only guy on the first team All-Decade team in the 1980s that's not in. How could you say that someone like that is not deserving when he obviously made it first team All-Decade? So that should mean something, I would think.
But Banks suffers from the same thing, though, that Covert does, indirectly, or in a way. Banks was not the best linebacker on those great Giants teams.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor was.
Yeah.
Jimbo Covert was the best, but he was overshadowed, literally, by a refrigerator.
Yeah, by Perry.
Right. So when you've got that occurring, it is like next to impossible to sort of escape how you're remembered. And Covert suffers from that. Thankfully, the class or the Centennial Selection Committee, looked ahead from that. And I'm also happy that Banks got a look. But there's a certain perception that it's really hard to avoid. And Banks suffers from that. Covert suffers from it. As does...
Well, I do think that...
Go ahead.
I do think Covert's time might actually come a little bit sooner. Now, I don't see it happening this year, obviously.
Yeah.
But I do think it might take... But I do have confidence that it will happen in a few years.
I think we don't know how they're going to move forward. We don't know if they're ever going to expand the senior class.
They could. It seems like they're going to lead that. For all we know, they might even expand the moderners from 5 to 6. For all we know.
Yeah, we don't know what they're going to do. But what I do want to say is, for the 10 names, and I'm just going to speak on the players for now. The 10 players or senior players that won't get in, that's a huge feather in your cap for future inductions, even if they revert back to a senior pool of just 2 names. Because those names are going to come up the next 5 years. They have to.
Oh yeah, and even for guys that aren't on it, like I even think that maybe Ken Anderson's name could still slip through the cracks because his name
could.
Was literally...
But I think if they've got a hierarchy, and we don't know whether they do or not. Maybe they're like you and me, and they're putting Excel spreadsheets together. I think just being on that for those 10 names, all 10 of them are going to get in our lifetime at some point.
Oh, I think so too. I have confidence that they will, and it might happen sooner rather than later. But we were talking about things that let's move on. I think we should move on to the other the guy that I personally was the most surprised by.
Okay.
I was shocked that Ronnie Barber missed it.
Yeah, that was I'm very, very high on him personally, but I think he also suffers from that same shadow because he's under Lynch's shadow. He's under Sapp's shadow. I know they played different positions, but I always thought Rondé was like one of the most vital members of that great Buccaneers team, and I thought he was going to advance. I was surprised that he didn't, but he will because he didn't have to wait 1 year to become a semifinalist.
No, I mean he's been a semifinalist 2 years prior, and I have a lot of confidence that he'll make it as a finalist next year. I do.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think that'll occur. So the next one we've got when we go in this, oh boy, everyone was freaking out, especially in Northern Ohio. Clay Matthews.
Oh boy. Now I don't know if I ever told you what I might have said before, but I'm going to say what I actually think of Clay Matthews Jr.
Okay.
I think he's deserving. I do, but you can't tell me with a straight face. Browns fans were doing this. They were literally saying to me and other people that, why is Zach Thomas in here, not Clay Matthews? Yeah. And I'm saying to myself, have you ever looked at Zach Thomas's accolades and compared them to Clay Matthews Jr.?
I think some of them did. They didn't count. They didn't factor in the games played.
No, they literally haven't. Like, we look at Zach Thomas, 7-time All-Pro, AFC Defensive Rookie of the Year, 2-time NFL Alumni Linebacker of the Year, NFL 2000s All-Decade Team. He also has a ridiculous amount of tackles, too, with over 1,700. And like I said, he made the All-Decade team, and his number might get retired soon by the Dolphins. Meanwhile, Clay Matthews Jr. He's essentially the Jim Marshall of linebackers.
Yes, it's exactly who he is. And I think Marshall should get in too. But it's when you're only doing, as you and I know, just like a handful of players each year in a league that has 1,000 participants each year, more actually. How it's very, very difficult, and the bar is very high. And we have seen, with the inductions of Terrell Davis, and again the nomination here of Tony Baselli, the Pro Football Hall of Fame focuses more, and I'm actually with them on this, years of dominance over more years of being near that second tier, or in that second tier. And Clay Matthews was that guy. And second tier is still pretty damn good. Don't get me wrong on that. First tier is just your 2-3 elite people, and that's it. Matthews, at no point could you ever say was the best linebacker in the league. Is he someone that every team wanted? Absolutely. But was he the best? No. Was he a compiler in a lot of stats? Yes, he was. Is he Hall of Fame worthy? Sure. But until they open up the door a little wider, he's going to be the type of guy that suffers. And I know that you would agree with me on this. For all the Browns fans thinking it's a conspiracy, well, it's my show. I'll say this: go fuck yourself. No, it's not.
No, I mean, seriously, I haven't seen actually Browns fans thinking that for some reason the NFL, Goodell, and the writers are literally trying to punish Browns fans in the strangest ways possible by intentionally trying to screw up Clay Matthews Jr. when he had the most amount of votes for the fan pool, even though that literally meant nothing. And his name was on the Ring of Honor, and they were going literally full force with all the campaigning, because they literally think it is all about campaigning, and that's it. And just so happened, in the year that they thought they were going to be good, the team struggled, and Clay Matthews Jr. does not advance past the semifinalist round. And it just so happens to be in a year in the Blue Ribbon Committee when you have Art Modell.
I knew you were going there. Oh, so can you imagine how Cleveland will react if Modell gets in?
Oh, that's going to be so... Oh, my God.
I generally try to keep my emotion out of this. I'm not always successful, as you know. But I do now, honestly, hope that Modell doesn't get in this year just for that reason. I really do.
Yeah, that's kind of the only reason why, too. But I'd say another reason is because, like I said, Ralph Hay literally created the NFL.
Yeah. No, I know. There are better people anyway. But now, this reason now supersedes my belief that Modell is not the top 3 candidate of the nominees. For this reason alone, I've been to Cleveland. I've been there for a whole month. They have nothing. It's an awful city. I'm sorry to the people of Cleveland, but your city sucks. And I get, if I was living in Cleveland, I would be more obsessed in sports than I am now. I totally would. Same in Buffalo, same in Detroit. Actually, more Buffalo than Cleveland than Detroit, I suppose. But those two are great. Those two cities are phenomenal sports cities, and a lot of that is because of circumstance, because there's nothing else to do.
And not only that, you look at the Browns fans. Like I said, even then, I still think the push for Clay Matthews Jr. is still going to be strong going into next year, because you look at how Browns fans are. You look at how crazy they are, and also you can look at how idiotic they are as well. You can look at how they are showing up for their team that has sucked. They've had the worst winning percentage of any team the last 10 years and the last 20 years. They also are, I think they also don't want to see Modell in, because they're just butthurt that the Ravens have been far better than the Browns have been the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And not only that, they're too stupid to realize that Max Speedy's on there, it seems.
Because, they never saw him play. NFL championships don't matter, only Super Bowls.
Yeah, and not only that, it's like...
there's
no...
So
you can't convince... You literally cannot convince me or anyone else that knows, NFL history, even as slight as the mouse, that Clay Matthews Jr. is more deserving than Max Speedy because he literally is not.
No, it's not even close.
Not.
Actually, I shouldn't say it's not even close, but there is a chasm, and Speedy definitely should be there ahead of him. I believe you follow, and I should follow it, and I don't, because Clay's daughter is pushing, obviously, the campaign very strong. Is it done in a very classy way? From what little I've seen, it seems to be. From her end,
classy,
yeah,
but the fans aren't.
Okay, no, and that's where I was sort of going with that. Because I did sort of like look at some of the fans there, and I just wanted to sort of like make sure that she was sort of like handling that in the best way possible, and it seems that she is, and that's great, and that's what because that will respond far better than the whole "it's a joke," and I put that on my Twitter, and I'll say it again. I'll say it. They're here to anyone listening. If you really want to push for somebody for any Hall of Fame, I don't care what Hall of Fame it is, once you say it's a joke that so-and-so's not in and you have nothing else to back it up, then you have no argument. That's it.
Not only that, I remember when Ken Anderson missed out, Bengals fans said they literally wanted the entire process to be completely revamped because their guy didn't make it in this year. I mean, what kind of ridiculous notion do you have to think to assume that a complete overhaul in the process is going to get what you want?
Mm-hmm. And it's not.
Completely.
It's not. There's always sort of like ways to sort of like change things in a nice positive way. Shout out to actually someone who did a lot of that with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, did everything super classy. A guy named Mike Litherland, who I've talked to before, and his push for Janet Jackson, who did get into the Rock Hall. And these things can work, but when you push like a dick, you just make the people who decide it want to go against your guy more, or woman, depending on the hall. So
now
I'm off the soapbox. Here's that thud, off the soapbox.
Not only that, when you look at big cases, like I said, I'm going to say it again. The best Hall of Fame push out there is the one for Roman Gabriel, because what he's done, what Vinny Sheenan's done, is really impressive. I mean, the Rams don't really have that big of a fan base, and yet the push for him is really strong, which is really impressive. Like what he's been able to do, he's literally gotten names of guys like Tom Mack and Mel Renfro and Roger Staubach and Bob Lilly and all these other well-known iconic players that have literally said they want to see Roman Gabriel in.
Mm-hmm. And Jennifer Matthews has done the same thing, has she not?
She has. Now, granted, the reason as to why I kind of say the Roman Gabriel one more than the Clay Matthews Jr. is because it's far more impressive what Vinny's been able to do than what Jen's been able to do, because Jen is literally just his daughter, and not only that, it's also a little bit easier to kind of rile up Browns fans than to rile up Rams fans.
Well, yeah, but finding a Rams fan is really hard.
I know that's what makes it very impressive how he's been able to do it.
I've actually, now that I think about it, this is true, because living in the Canadian mountains, I have seen more Rams than Rams fans.
You've seen more Rams than Rams fans?
Like actual Rams.
Oh, like the big orange sheep in the mountains?
Yes.
Damn, I should really go there. Maybe I can actually see. It'd be interesting if Vinny was actually able to talk to actual Rams to campaign for him, because that would be pretty impressive.
Well, I still have to get him to talk to me.
Yeah, we've actually. Maybe you can. He's also a busy guy too. Maybe you can work things out. But
I'm sure.
You know,
I'm sure.
Sure, he does. Like, I don't think, but going with also Clay Matthews Jr. He was, in terms of angry fan bases, Matthews seemed to have gotten the most, which again isn't surprising because if you look online, he's the one that most people are saying about Clay Matthews Jr., Clay Matthews Jr., Clay Matthews Jr. And they really did not handle it well. Like, they really did not.
I did go down the Twitter rabbit hole on that one. I noticed.
What's the?
I don't know, just the usual stuff. It always comes back to the "it's a joke" line, and then and I did notice something that you were mentioning earlier. They were comparing that to Zach Thomas, which, okay, you're actually proving your point against it if you're really looking at accolades, because they were going by accolades. If you want to go by tenure, I mean, it can happen. Jackie Slater got into the Hall of Fame by not once being sort of like the top guy at his position, but he was always in that second tier for a longer period of time. It can happen.
Not only that, Jackie Slater made the first ballot.
That one surprised me when I sort of started looking at all the research on that. But either way, that's neither here nor there. We should probably move on. We've got 7 more names to cover.
Yeah.
Simeon Rice, he didn't get through. I didn't think he would. Any thoughts on him?
No, I didn't see it. I'm not really super passionate for Rice.
Yeah.
And not only that, it also doesn't help the fact that, Rodney Barber didn't even advance. So what makes you think that Simeon Rice would have?
Right. And I think he's going to have to wait. And I think it was still a win for him to get to the semifinal this year for the second time. If he gets a third time, then you can start maybe a bigger conversation. But right now, I don't think there's a reason to talk about him yet. No disrespect to Mr. Rice. It's just, it's not his time.
Not only that, like I said, Mike Allstott is a name that I would argue was even more a better player than Simeon Rice. And the reason why not many people really talk about Mike Allstott is because he played fullback.
Yeah. No, he's playing. I don't want to call it a dead position, but it's a position that certainly doesn't have the cachet that it used to. Same with returners. I mean, when Devin Hester gets in, that might be the last returner if he gets in, because he's not the lock that people think he is.
But also you look at a guy like Billy White Johnson, who is literally the only person to be on 2 All-Decade teams, the 75th anniversary team, and the 100th anniversary team. That's not in. And for all we know, he might still not be in the next 20 years now, granted. I
probably
do
not.
Hope that changes. What?
I said probably not, but I mean, it could be wrong. I'd like to be wrong.
I mean,
and here's a guy I'd like to be wrong about, too. Steve Tasker.
Yeah, that was a guy, I would say, I actually think he had a potential chance to potentially even it out. However, I'm not 100% shocked that he didn't make it. Like Clay Matthews, he actually did also, he was 5th in the fan vote.
Oh, was he 5th? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was 5th in fan vote. Like last time I checked, it was Heinz Ward, but then just before the names were called, Steve Tasker was number 5.
Okay, that's interesting. So Tasker, I mean, he could get in down the road. What is this? Semifinalist number 7? Okay, so number 7.
Yeah,
he's on the radar. Bills fans aren't going to forget. So, they'll keep his name in the conversation. I don't know that he'll see it in his lifetime. I would like him to.
I do think, especially if the doors are opened a little bit slightly, and if you've seen an increase from 8 to 10, or all I know, it could even be even further down the road. I think Tasker will eventually make it. I think with White Shoes, I think safeties, wide receivers, and then the special teamers. Mm-hmm. That's how I think it's going to go in terms of respect towards positions.
All right, so we got a few more. Fred Taylor, who, sorry, Fred, you should have been just excited just that you got this far.
I mean, like I said, nothing against Fred Taylor. I mean, even though his yards per attempt is impressive, between you and me, and I don't say this often, but Sean Alexander kind of deserved that more.
Totally. No, he's totally. Who would you put? I have Sean Alexander, just in sort of the more recent era. I got Alexander and Priest Holmes ahead of him.
Yeah, no, Sean Alexander. When you look at Sean Alexander, he had 89 touchdowns in his first 6 seasons. I mean, when do you ever hear about that for a running back?
And he's never talked about.
I mean, I talked about it, and
sure.
The only downside is he also was on the cover of Madden. He was an MVP. He won the Burt Bell Award. He led the league in rushing touchdowns a couple times. Led the league in rushing yards once. I mean, that's a guy that he is really under the radar. Really a guy that I'm getting increasingly passionate about because, like I said, I'm passionate for the guys that not many people talk about. Like I said, people want to be super passionate about, Jim Plunkett. Meanwhile, I'm the guy that's super passionate for Randall Cunningham.
I'm with you on Cunningham, 100%. So Taylor,
Or
this could be a token. I don't know that he's ever going to get into this spot again.
it seems like an situation in which Fred Taylor made it because there was no coaches on here and because
That's
there
true.
weren't many first ballot locks left. And that's the reason. That's why I think Fred Taylor's on here. Do I see Fred Taylor making it to the semifinals again? Down the road, I personally don't. I think if any of these guys are going to fall off from being in semifinals, I think Fred Taylor is the obvious one.
Okay, so we've got a few more. Ricky Waters, which I think we both talked about. That was a really nice surprise. I didn't see him advancing. He didn't. Maybe, but he could be. He's got some time. He's got a bit of time, and I hope he does get. I hope they do give him another look. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think, I was happy with Waters made as a semifinalist. I could see him as a semifinalist again next year. I potentially could. Unlike Taylor, I think Waters has a better chance of doing it, especially considering that he was more multi-versatile than Taylor, who was just really the pure runner.
I agree.
Waters could catch and he could run, but like I said, Waters did not get any before Roger Craig, and for all we know, that could actually happen this year. That Craig could make it.
That would make me as happy as Duke Slater would make for you.
Honestly, I would. Yeah, Slater. But even then, I think that Slater is a lock. Personally, I don't.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Dillwig.
I agree. Those are got to be. I think that's 1 and 1A.
Yeah, it's sort of like Dillwig and Slater are like my 1A, my 1B, essentially.
Right. So we got 3 more. Hines Ward did exactly what I thought he would be, a semifinalist, and didn't get advance, and that's going to happen to him. That could happen to him the next couple of years.
Oh no, it is going to happen in the next couple of years. I mean, Isaac Bruce can make it this year, and I do think that Holt and Wayne have a good chance of staying. I mean, I think Holt could potentially slide back to semifinals, but there's no way that Hines Ward is making it in the Hall of Fame before Calvin Johnson. That's just not going to happen.
I don't think Calvin's a lock.
For the first year, or just the Hall of Fame period?
He's not getting in first year.
Yeah, I don't think he's making it first year.
But I think I don't know that he. I don't want to say that he didn't play necessarily long enough. It's just there is. I just talked about how there's not really a bias, but like when you're playing for Detroit and you accomplish not that much in terms of wins and losses, and you're an offensive skill player, there's a bit of that involved. I think Calvin Johnson will get into the Hall of Fame. I think he should go into the Hall of Fame. I think he's got some more time to go back on Dancing with the Stars a few times before it happens.
Oh, yeah, and even then, it's not the Lions are literally there this year. I mean, you have Ox Emerson and Alex Karras as Blue Ribbon senior finals, and you have Buddy Parker as a coaching finalist. So
yeah, but that's when the Lions that's when the Lions were any good.
That's true. It's like in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s.
Sure. I mean, I look at it this way. I'm well aware of my immortality, or especially that I'm closer to 50 than I am to 40. I have very few memories of the Lions ever doing anything than just Barry Sanders putting them on their back and getting them to at least a wild card.
Yeah, but you can't just say it's Barry Sanders, because you also cannot forget the guy who was his blindside protector of the Lions.
No,
Lomas Brown.
Sure, I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, there's a certain perception, and it doesn't help.
It doesn't, and Lomas Brown is like, he's a guy that I know that Richmond Webb's on the '90s All-Decade team, but Lomas Brown was on more All-Pro teams.
I know,
and Lomas Brown also, not only that, he literally went out on top. He was on the team of the Buccaneers that won the Super Bowl in 2002. That's how his career ended.
No one has accomplished so much and been remembered for so little in the last 30 years than Lomas Brown.
That's a guy that I'm shocked that literally barely anyone mentions his name, and I'm like, he literally played.
Let's start pounding that drum there, Vinny. Do you think Lomas is on social media?
I know that he works for the Lions radio. I know he works. I know he's a color analyst for the Lions broadcast. from the radio.
All right, that's now going to be my pet project. 2020, talk to Lomas Brown. All right, we got two more names because we're running out a little bit of time here, so let's just get right to them. Someone I thought had a good shot at being a finalist, but I'm not surprised he didn't become one. Patrick Willis.
That's actually the one that, if it wasn't for Clay Matthews Jr., Willis got a lot of talk online. A lot of people were pissed off with Willis, but like I said, I thought that Ronnie Barber was a bigger snub than Patrick Willis, and that's nothing against Patrick Willis. It's because Ronnie Barber, because I did not see there being 4 safeties inducted as finalists this year, and not only that, Willis is also on for his first year of eligibility. So the fact that he had a bit of a shorter career, almost like a Tony Baselli, I think once you have Baselli make it, it's going to open the door for Willis. It's going to open the door for Johnson. It's going to even open the door for guys like Larry Brown and other guys like the old days that also had somewhat shorter but dominant careers. I could really see that. But I thought that Willis had an okay shot at making it as a finalist, but I didn't think he would make it as a finalist. And looking back on the year, and it just so happens that, I saw Willis make it as a finalist, but I wasn't really confident in that.
Right. And, yeah, I felt the same.
And yeah, here we are. Willis is in the finalist, and I know everyone's upset, but honestly, like I said, I don't see him advancing until Thomas makes it.
Yeah, his path is still it's still a decent trajectory. He'll be fine. Last person, Darren Woodson. I didn't expect him to make the finals. He didn't. But now this is the 4th time he's been a semifinalist. So there could be some more talk there. But he's also another guy in another shadow.
Not only that, you had 4 safeties. I mean, there's 5 safeties. When there's 5 safeties as semifinalists, and you're the only one that doesn't advance to the finalist stage, how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
That's gotta suck.
Yeah, they even left. I think they even left him off the damn video package, making it pretty goddamn clear.
Oh yeah, and I said, is Woodson going to make it? Is Woodson going to make it in? Butler's waited a longer time. I mean, granted, he's been a semifinalist for less years, but his jump was a lot, sudden. Whereas Woodson, he still has some time. I mean, Butler's on his 14th year, Woodson's on his 12th year. Like I said, I don't see Woodson. The same thing I don't see Lynch before Palomalo and Atwater. I don't see Butler before Lynch, and I don't see Woodson before Butler. And as for other safeties, you also can't forget about Rodney Harrison. I think he could make it to the semifinals maybe in a couple of years, but I don't see that happening until Woodson makes it.
Right.
And there's some other safeties that are probably on there that I'm just not even mentioning, like Carnell Lake. That's another guy that I don't even think he was listed as a preliminary guy, and he was a 5-time All-Pro and made the '90s All-Decade team.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I'll definitely be focusing a lot more on the preliminary. I think I'm going to take a lot more active social media role. Oh, dear God. You're bringing me in your cesspool. Thanks, Vinny. I appreciate it. So let's close this with predictions here. I'm gonna give you the 5 I think will advance, and let's make a friendly wager, because eventually at some point I'll be in New York or you'll be in the Caribbean. I don't know what'll happen first. And we'll bet a beer on it. Although the way your country's going, I think it's more likely you'll come here.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, hell, there was a whole airstrike in Iraq, and people were talking about World War III. Oh my God, is the world actually ending closer than I think?
That's the funny thing about Twitter. I'm upset. I go on that all the time, and sometimes I'll just explain to my wife, who never goes on that. I'm always fascinated what the top 5 trends are. I think it was what last night I'm looking at that. It's World War III, then WW3, and then Iran, and then 2 things that were related to K-pop. And I had to look up what they were because I didn't know what the hell it was.
K-pop is it's Korean.
No. I know what K-pop is, but the thing that was I'm not that out of touch that I don't know what K-pop is, but just the what it was that was trending had to do with K-pop. I just didn't know what it was.
For some reason, people really hate K-pop fans. I don't know why K-pop fans in particular people hate.
If you don't like a genre of music, don't listen to it. I mean, like, I noticed that too. That's the other thing that tries to at least try to keep me learning what's going on. Because I saw that, a couple days ago, something that K-pop is some crap or something. Why do you care?
Why is it K-pop that people are focused on? I mean, it's fucking K-pop. It's a rather niche kind of form of music. Now it's getting a lot more popular, but it's still a lot smaller than other kinds of types of music. Like, why suddenly is K-pop the ultimate boogeyman fan base of people online? I mean,
it's the same pattern though, Vinny. You know who New Kids on the Block are, right?
I've heard of them. I've heard of New Kids on the Block.
Okay, so when I was a teenager, every not every girl, but most girls in the high school loved the New Kids on the Block, and almost every guy thought they were crap. So you just choose not to listen to it. So it's probably a lot of just teenage boys who are upset that teen girls who they can't get to are finding these guys better looking than they are. It's it. It's that simple. And this happens every generation. And just like 10 years, or when it was Bieber then, or even the Beatles when they first came out, when they were pretty boys, and they didn't it'll never end. Right now, it's a bunch of Korean dancers.
But like they're apparently saying that I don't know. It's so weird what they're trying to say. Like apparently they're saying that K-pop fans are these literal horrible human beings. Like, what the hell do you have in your life that you're saying that BS?
We don't even say that about Browns fans.
Yeah, like seriously, you don't see people call horrible. Like literally, there is no fan base of literally anything that for some reason is more hated online than K-pop fans for some reason.
Because of what I just said. I can't believe we talked about K-pop. All right, I'm going to make my 5 predictions here.
Yeah.
I predict that the class will be Steve Atwater, Alan Faneca, Isaac Bruce, Troy Polamalu, and my wild card is Richard Seymour.
Ooh, what's your dark horse? Is he your dark horse or?
Well, if I'm gonna, Seymour kind of was my number 5 guy. The only one I could see sort of sneaking in I'll say my dark horse is Reggie Wayne. That they might go 2 wide receivers.
Is that who you want, or is that?
No, that's what I'm thinking they're going to pick. If I go by who I want, because let's see, if I go by who I want, it's actually not much different. It'd still be Atwater, because I'm very passionate about that one. Faneca should have got in, so Faneca is Polamalu. I think still should. It wouldn't be Seymour if I'm going by who I want. No, actually, I would say that. Okay, who I want would be Wayne, but I don't think he will. But he's my dark horse because I think they're not going to put in 2 wideouts. And then my number 5 guy would be. So I wasn't prepared for who I wanted. I was trying to be objective.
Mm-hmm.
Who do I want? All right, okay. For who I want, I'll throw this here. Torrey Holt. That's who I'd want.
Oh,
Torrey Holt.
That sounds good.
Yeah, he won't. But that's who I would want if I'm in that room making that decision. I'd be pushing hard for him, but I'd probably drop it really quick just to get one of those Rams in there. And clearly, Bruce is higher than him on the pecking order.
And that's fair enough. I mean, even down the line, I mean, unless you're like first out or maybe some other stuff that goes on like C. Terrell Owens, not many people are really going to care about, I mean, some people do, but I don't think they would personally care down the line that won't make it over here. I just don't think they would.
Mm-hmm. All right, so who's your 5 that you want and the 5? Okay, no, actually, we'll do it the way I did it. The 5 that you think and the 5 you want.
Okay, the 5 that I think is going to happen are Atwater, because he made it ridiculously close last year. I think he will. I really do think he will advance. Polamalu, he's a clear, it's obvious. I'm hearing some people say that Polamalu wasn't good. Shut up. I also think that Faneca will definitely make it. I mean, he's been in the finals for his 5th year. I think he'll make it. He was very close last year. I think Baselli will creep in. I do see that happening.
Yeah. I almost said that's something that I thought they could do. He would have been my 7th if they would have. If they would have picked 7, he would have been my 7th guy that I thought they would go. Not my personal 7, but yeah, I could see you being right on that.
And then as for the 5th guy, it's really tough because it literally is a neck and neck with James and Bruce, because on the one hand, James made it very, very close last year, but on the other hand, there's 3 wide receivers here, and you kind of need to get in one of them before Calvin Johnson comes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that I think they would probably go with Bruce.
So we're really only differing on Baselli and Seymour.
And then when it comes, but even then, I'm really be fine with any of these guys that would make it. And as for who I want, it would be a little bit different. I would have Palomalu, and I'd have Atwater, and I'd have Faneca, and I might even throw in Bruce just because I would want to see a wide receiver make it through. But the guy I would probably want to have as a guy I really want, Jack Thomas.
Yeah, I would too. I'd be totally down with that. So then our difference then, because we do have a wager here, and I bet beer. So basically, it's so we are only different on just one guy for who we're predicting.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do think, if I was to say my dark horse, as for a guy that, at least with Thomas, I'm thinking about the guy that I'm not really thinking about that I think could literally jump frog, the leapfrog. I think it would be Seymour. That would be a dark horse.
Mm-hmm.
That's a guy I really do think.
I'm just going by a hunch, which I don't know why I ever do, because my hunches are always wrong, as you can tell by my fantasy football.
It's either Thomas or Seymour for me. Just either AFC East linebacker, not linebacker, either AFC East defensive player. That's what I think would happen. I mean, now I don't know. Like, again, I'm also doing all on the spot, so I'm not really 100% sure. But like I said, Bruce and James are literally just a coin flip. So it literally is either way. I don't see both of them getting in, but I see either one getting in.
Okay, so here's the bet then. If Baselli gets in, I owe you a beer, and you start keeping track, because sooner or later, I'll be there, you'll be here. If Seymour gets in, you owe me one. Deal?
Sounds good to me.
All right, and with that.
But wait. Oh. Here's another one. What if neither of them make it?
Well, then we don't owe each other anything. We'll come up with something. We always do.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So then it's still the stalemate. That's all right.
Yeah. I don't know when. I'm not sure if they're going to announce the Blue Ribbon guys the same time as they do.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling they are.
Yeah, but even then, the Blue Ribbon guy is going to be having a different induction. They're going to have an induction ceremony that's a month after these 5.
Well, maybe they'll do it though. So maybe they'll do it in the week in between. Pro Bowl weekend. Yeah.
Potentially, I could see that. I mean, I'd be pretty down for it. Now, and in case you're wondering, also for Browns fans, stay off of Twitter for a little while. I think for your mental well-being and your sanity, you could really use a little bit of it.
All right, so let's leave with this one here. Who do you got in the Super Bowl? Just not who's going to win, just who's going to be facing who.
Ravens are going to be against the Saints.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's what I'd say. The same thing. Of course, I'm a Saints fan, so I mean, like, it's like I don't think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be tough. Well, by the time people hear this, the wildcard games will be over, but it'll be interesting. Anyways, Vinny, it's been great. We'll talk in a few weeks.
Yeah, and speaking of that, for all we know, the Saints could even lose to the Vikings.
Yeah, don't say that. We're not ending the show on that. But then, thanks for that. All right, talk to you soon, buddy.
See you, Kirk. Have a nice day.
All right, bye.